estate rock stars. It is Christina Leavenworth out of Pensacola, Florida. I am so excited about this podcast with Nick Harris. This guy sells more than 100 homes a year. He is doing a lot of it through circle prospecting, and you just need to hear his scripts and everything he is doing. It is so inspiring. He's putting the reps in, and he's definitely getting the sales. You are going to love this podcast. All right, rock stars, I am so excited. We have Nick Harris on the podcast today, and this guy is absolutely killing it. He's selling over 100 homes per year on average since 2021, and I'm just so excited about what he's going to tell us and what we can learn from him today. So welcome, Nick from Detroit. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to chat, and thanks for having me on. I'm excited for this.
Awesome. Well, let's just start from the beginning. How did you get into real estate and when?
Yeah, so I first got interested in real estate on the investment side of things. So long-term rental, long-term buy and hold. The Michigan market, the Metro Detroit market has good numbers for that. I can go back to basically high school when I first felt like I had an interest. I knew I wanted to be involved with real estate investing. My initial thought was that it was going to be passive. So I was looking for passive income opportunities, and real estate was one of the, is and has been a hot topic. So self-education through YouTube University and podcast books. So that's where I first got interested in real estate. Went to college, got a degree in something completely different, which I feel like most people do. And health and exercise science was the degree that I got. Played college baseball, graduated, got a strength conditioning coach job, personal training job, and then COVID hit. So that world kind of spun around and changed a little bit. So I was looking for different alternatives of what I might want to do. And again, real estate had been something that I was interested in, and got a job for a mortgage lender, United Wholesale Mortgage, was an account executive there. So I worked with mortgage brokers and loan officers, not with the buyers and sellers. So it was very business to business, not business to consumer. And I felt like I wanted a little bit more interaction with the actual client. So during COVID, got sent home. In 2020, we got sent home because somebody on my team had COVID. So we got sent home for 2 weeks. Decided that was a good time to study for the real estate exam. Studied week 1 of being home, took the exam week 2, got sent back to the office, got a promotion, and decided, all right, I'll stick it out for a little while. But then after a little while was thinking, okay, I want to jump into real estate. I want to be a real estate agent full time. So in June of 2021 is when I jumped into real estate as an agent full time.
Okay, so no security blanket. You didn't have the other job. You jumped 2 feet in.
Yeah. I've always been pretty good with financial budgeting, saving. So I had a nest egg. I felt like I had something that, I could go X amount of time without making a single check, where I felt comfortable doing it. Worst case, I could always go back, left on good terms where I was. But yeah, jumped into it full time, not knowing what to expect, not having any experience, and really just kind of had faith in what I wanted to do and hopefully could get there.
And at that point, were you freshly married? I know you now have one child and another on the way. So I'm guessing there's a lot of moving parts going on in your life.
Yeah. So we were newly married, got married in 2020. So very newly married, took a big leap of faith. And I can't thank my wife enough for the support that she's given me throughout the entire process. But newly married. So it was a jump, but we were young, didn't have a child at the time, and kind of figured, okay, now's the time if I'm going to do it and take a risk. Maybe it's now. So we've since had a 2-year-old daughter, another one expected in June of this year. So we're excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how did it start? When you got into real estate, this is an industry where they say 95% of agents fail, and you are absolutely killing it, selling over 100 homes a year. Did you start out of the gates just, looking like you were going to win, or did you have some struggles like everyone else?
Yeah. So for me, I knew I needed to be somewhere, and I gave it some good thought of, did I want to go independent? Did I want to join a team? What did that look like for me from a just starting off, jumping into it full time? So I had some research. Again, I had that self-education of real estate investing. So knew I kind of wanted to jump in with that niche of like, okay, if I can get into the investor world, that would be a good start. I understand it. Because I had some education at that time. I didn't have any rentals of my own at the time. I do now, but I understood it, and felt like I could at least speak to that more so than even like a first time home buyer. I had only, up to that point, I had only purchased one home of my own. So I felt like, and I didn't educate myself in that process. And looking back on it, the process didn't go as smoothly as what I wanted, which was also, one of those things where like, okay, you kind of live in hindsight and say, I would have done this differently if I was in those shoes. So yeah, so jumped in. I initially started with the team, which for me was huge. No matter what team it could be, if you have one in your area, not only did it allow me to get around people who were already producing, but I had people who had like-minded goals, wanted to get to something, and we were all working for something in a team aspect. And I came I played pretty much every sport you could imagine in high school, played college baseball, so I came from that atmosphere and knew what I was going to get into, knowing, okay, if I start here, I have mentorship, I have some coaching, I have some people with experience that I can shadow and be around. So that was huge for me getting into that. So number one was joining the team, working with investors, and then building my sphere of influence in my own database. Being younger at the time, didn't have a ton of friends that were moving. So it was kind of like, hey, are your parents thinking about buying or selling? So that's kind of where I jumped in from the beginning.
How did you select your team?
I interviewed a handful just to see, what might be best. And the interview process for me was a simple Google search, like what should you be asking your broker? What should you be asking a team? So very general questions that you can find on Google or Chat GPT, which wasn't around then, but simple questions just to ask and see what was offered and what you get out of it, as much as what does a day-to-day role look like and how much experience can I get. For me, up front, it wasn't necessarily how much money can I keep, but it was how much experience can I get. So that was a big piece for the team as well. And yeah, that basically was how I went into it with the team aspect.
So, just by talking to your sphere of influence and talking to a few investors, you don't get to 103 deals a year. So, what are your biggest lead sources?
Yep. So right now, my biggest lead pillars, and I can count them. I have primarily three lead pillars that I fall on for my business to close north of 100 deals a year. Number one is SOI, sphere of influence. And I also kind of tie that into social media, because a lot of the people that I know are also I'm friends with, or I follow, or I'm relevant with on social media. So I have SOI in social media. I have past clients and referrals as my second lead pillar. And then my third lead pillar is circle prospecting.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So with circle prospecting, I use three different opportunities to call around to homeowners. The reason I like circle prospecting is because you're getting in direct contact with somebody who owns the home. Whether they need to sell or want to sell is up in the air, but you're contacting somebody that owns a home. They're going to transact or could transact at some point in time. So I have three opportunities that I view to capitalize on circle prospecting. Number one is just listed. So if I have a listing that's going to be going live, I call the week before we go live, as in like a coming soon status, just to let the local neighbors know, hey, this is Nick Harris. I just wanted to let you know I'm getting ready to list 123 Main Street right down the corner from you. Here's some of the specifics. I'm just curious, do you know of anyone that might be looking to move into the area? So I don't bring up anything about, are you looking to sell? Is there a price that makes sense? The first one is introduce myself. Do you know of friends, family, anybody looking to move into the area? I do the same thing the following week when we go live. So first call is coming soon, or the week before. The second call is going to be when we go live. Hey, just went live on that listing that we talked about last week. Just checking back in. Do you know of anybody who might be looking to move into the area? You're welcome to come to the open house and just check it out if you're interested.
Quickly, how many homes are you calling? Are you calling like 10 to the left, 10 to the right? Are you calling, the entire neighborhood? What does that look like?
I tend to call quite a bit. So depending on the location, like I stick to number one, the minimum is the entire neighborhood. So if the neighborhood only has 20 homes, for sure I'm calling those 20. But if it's a neighborhood of 500, 600 homes, I'm going to call everybody.
Wow.
And then just depending on the listing itself, if it's a geographic area that I know that I want to work, that's a good price point, that's worth the time that I'm going to put in to call, If, like for us, our average price point is 350. So I know that anything over that 350 mark, if like the average sale in that neighborhood, it's a good neighborhood to get into. So it really just depends on the neighborhood size. And then geographically, is it something like, do I want more listings in that area? Or am I calling to market the home specifically for the seller because I said I would?
Okay. So there's a third touch you said you have. So you have coming soon, just listed, invite them to the open house. And
Yep. And then the third call is going to be when we go pending. So that's just generally when I bring in. So the third call with circle prospecting is going to be around just went pending or just went under contract. And that's the first time that I bring up the question of, have you considered selling if there was a price that made sense? Because now I can take them actual information to say, we were on the market for this long. We got this many offers, this many showings, this percentage over asking. There's still, if you end up with multiple offers on it, that means there's still buyers out there somewhere. So it's a good opportunity for now for me to ask that question of, are you considering selling if you got a price that made sense? And then the fourth call would be once we close. Very similar call to when we went pending. Hey, just giving you an update. The house did close, and here's all the data on it. At best, for me, they turn around and say, hey, that's a really good number. We'd love to sell. At worst, they now know the value of their potential home, or at least what's going on in their neighborhood, to give them something to think about.
I love all of it. I think sometimes agents get a little frustrated when they make 10 or 15 calls and it's hangups, it's, wrong number, that sort of thing. Do you know your numbers as far as like out of every 100 calls, how many conversations you would have?
Yeah. Yep. So my metric for the day, and I am very calendar oriented. So I live and die by my calendar, and I like to lead generate or prospect for a minimum of 2 hours a day. If I don't, that's generally in the morning. If I don't hit my numbers if I don't hit my numbers, I continue. Then if I don't have any appointments, listing appointments, anything to go on in the afternoon, I could circle back and go again. Generally, my goal on a per day basis is to have 25 real estate conversations.
Wow.
So if I can have 25 real estate conversations Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, then that's a good metric for me. And what I found is for about every 100 dials, I'm usually having about that 20 to 25 conversations.
Okay. I mean, that's really good odds. That's 25%.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And for me, I'm pretty critical of what a real estate conversation looks like. So for me, it's not just getting on the phone and letting them know that, hey, I just listed. Like, I want it to go one or two questions deeper, and that's a contact for me. But yeah, for about every 100 outbound calls, it's about 20, 25, depending on the day. Fridays actually are, what I found is Fridays have more. It's more of a contact rate than like a Monday or Tuesday where the work week just started.
Really? Wow. What time are you calling them?
So I call every day, minimum from 9 to 11 in the morning.
Okay.
So 9 to 11 is my 2 hours. And then again, I circle back to it if I don't have appointments to go on in the afternoons after lunch. After I've gone through some of my transaction communication and client communication, I'll jump back in maybe, from 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 and make some more calls. But 9 to 11 is a non-negotiable Monday through Friday. And then if I can add more in later in the day, I do.
So when you're after that first phone call and you're saying, hey, it's just listed, do you prep them being like, hey, it's coming soon. Hey, I'm going to also give you a call when it actually hits the market so I can invite you to the open house? Or do you just call them and invite them to the open house?
Yeah, so I know. So when we're coming soon, I have it scheduled for all of my listings. I know the open house date. So, a week in advance when I'm calling them for that coming soon date, I know, hey, we're going to have an open house the first Saturday that we go live. So if we list on a Thursday, I know open house is going to be on Saturday. So I already have that information for them.
Okay.
So that's something that I address on that first call.
Okay. Sometimes I found if you tell them like, hey, I am going to be calling you to keep you updated along the way. Is that okay with you? I get a really good response from it. I was wondering your process, if it's like, hey, don't even tell them that, just call them anyway. I didn't know if you do that.
Yeah, so I don't. I haven't experimented with it, and I like the idea of it. For me, it's kind of just been like, if I'm planning on calling, like I'll call them. If they don't want to talk to me, they don't want to talk to me. But I try to provide something of value. Like I said, everybody in the neighborhood wants to know what are homes going for, what are they selling for, because ultimately it dictates the value of their home too. So I go at it with the perspective of most people want to at least be familiar with what's going on in their neighborhood, what's selling, and at what price point. So that's just kind of the mentality I take into it. And you learn pretty quickly whether somebody wants to talk to you or whether they don't, and
Yeah.
you handle it accordingly.
I want to go back to over 100 deals in a year. And yes, you're on a team, but you are doing your transactions. You have help, but you have some showing agents that help you do this. How does that work?
Real Estate Rock Stars. It's Sarah Denig. And today I'm telling you, the holidays are over. If you are still nursing that holiday hangover and your whole goal for the year was just survive this season, it's time to level up. Come join us March 4th through 6th in Austin, Texas. This is a life-changing experience where people are so open. They will share. You will increase your business. If you have goals and you want to execute, come join us. We are better together, and I cannot wait to see you guys. Take this chance on yourself. Trust me.
You have help, but you have some showing agents that help you do this. How does that work?
Yeah. Yep. So I have a transaction coordinator, and she helps with all the back end, all the transaction communication with title, lender, kind of tightens up the loose ends on what happens with the transaction. As far as the showing agents go, I have one primary showing agent, and if ever he's not available, I have access to two more. So generally, the way that I operate on that is I try to have that initial conversation with a client. And again, it's going to be case by case. If it's somebody that I've known for a really long time and they trust me, then they know that conversation to say, hey, my showing agent is going to be showing you the home tonight that you requested at 6 o'clock. And we have that conversation about the benefit behind it. And if it's someone who's brand new, or I get a sense of they really want that one-on-one for at least the first, like for a buyer, they really want that first touch to be me. They reached out to me specifically, and sometimes they say that, right? And so that's up to you as an agent to decide, okay, is this something that I can dedicate my time to, and my efforts to, knowing that, is this a client that might only need to see one or two homes? Like generally you get that feel, if they're going to see one or two homes, they know what they're looking for. They've been looking for a year. Or is it someone who's the looky loo and is going to look at, ask you to go out at 100 homes in the next 3 months, and all of it's going to be on the weekends? And so I kind of dictate, who I send showing agents to. A couple of different ways that you can utilize showing agents, and I've experimented with both. I don't think one way is better than the other. It really just comes down to what you feel comfortable with, but then also the showing agent on the other end, what they're comfortable with. So what I've seen and what I've implemented between the two is, one is pay at the time of showing, and it could be a cost per showing. It could be from driveway to driveway. You're going to pay them X dollars per hour. Whether that is something that you would like to do from a business perspective as the agent who's hiring the showing agent, that could mean that showing agent goes out on 20 homes. You're paying them for all 20, and they never close a deal. So what I tend to lean towards is paying a percentage of commission at the time of closing. Now, again, that has to be, settled between you and a showing agent. They're working and they get paid based on the percentage. It gives them the experience of showing homes, potentially the experience of inspection. So again, it's just who are you utilizing for that? What's their need? What's your need? And those are the two options that I've implemented.
Is this team provided, or is this something that you've implemented yourself?
Yep. So both. So with my where I was previously when I first started, it was I did it on my own. I had to seek out whether it was an agent on the team or a showing agent, and then I paid the hourly out of pocket. The team that I'm on now offers and provides us with showing agents for the top 10 agents in our office. So you have access to that. The team pays the hourly, and then it comes out of my commission at closing.
Got it. Got it. Going back to your circle dialing, where do you typically get your numbers from, as far as being like better numbers than others? Because I know different sites, it can be exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. I've used Mojo and I've used RedX. I use RedX. It's just a platform that I'm most comfortable with for whatever reason. But I use RedX and I get my numbers from there. I definitely recommend on any of those platforms, make sure that you're paying for the spam protection.
Yes.
That makes a huge difference. So, for RedX, I think it's like an additional $10 a month for that spam protection. So instead of your number popping up as spam likely, it just pops up with your phone number and a city. For me, usually what I hear is my phone number pops up as West Bloomfield, which is pretty central Oakland County where I'm at.
Oh, that is gold right there. I didn't even know that was an option on
Yeah.
RedX. I didn't even
So
see
Reddit, yeah, that was huge. When I first got RedX, I did not have it, didn't know about it. I'm sure I just read through it and saw it and decided, no, I don't need it for the $10 a month. But it is well worth $10 a month. It's like we spend pretty much that on Netflix. But my conversation rate tripled, if not quadrupled, just by having that. And even the conversations, you can tell when people pick up the phone, it's more of like, do I know this person? Like, who is this? Like, it's not coming up as spam. Who, like, I have to know this person. Instead of it saying scam or spam likely, they're just declining the call or they're jumping on very hesitant.
Yeah, yeah. So what does your script sound like? You're calling this neighborhood and they're like, hello, who's this? Like,
Yeah.
where do you
So
go from there?
So coming soon and just listed. Again, the thought is let's try to get some buyers, and then if it comes up in conversation, or the conversation kind of takes it there, I'll talk about the selling. But coming soon and just listed, the conversation is, hey, this is Nick Harris with eXp Realty. I was just giving you a quick call. I just listed and I'm getting ready to list a home right down the corner or right around the corner from you on 123 Main Street. I was reaching out only because I wanted to let you know that we are putting it on the market and was just curious if you knew of any friends or family or anyone who might be looking to buy a home. Oftentimes neighbors know somebody who might want to move in, or you might want to pick your neighbor. Do you happen to know of anyone looking to purchase a home in the neighborhood? And then I let them come back from there.
You sometimes get, yeah, actually I do.
Yeah. Yep. So they'll, I'll have people who will say, I've even had, people who say, we're actually looking to stay local in the neighborhood, but we are looking to upsize or we're looking to downsize. Like, what is the specifics of the home? So it's a good conversation where I could be talking with the buyer right there. Other times they're, hey, yeah, my son or my daughter, my grandma, my mother, whoever it might be is actually looking and has been looking for a while. So it can bring about.
Say like, hey, give me their contact info. I'd love to reach them. Or do you say, please give them my number? Like, how does that go?
Yeah, so I try to tread lightly with that because initially I tried to get directly connected with whoever they were referring, whoever they thought might be buying or looking to buy. And I started to get like, I could sense a little bit of like, well, I'm not just going to share my mom's number with you or my daughter's number with you. So I would go into that and basically say, hey, if you're open to it and you're comfortable, feel free to share their contact information with me in a group text message, or just send me the message and I'll create a group text message with the three of us. That way they know who's reaching out and that you verified. If you're not comfortable with it, that's completely fine. I want to at least send you my contact information. That way you can share it with them and then they can reach out on their own time. So I try to go with the initial, either give me the contact information, do a group message, or I'll send you my contact information. And I should also preface while we're talking about this, even if someone has no interest, I always try to at least get my contact information in front of them from a text message. So I have a pre-templated text. If you have an iPhone, you can go into your settings, general, keyboard, set up a text. For me, circle prospecting, I put a CP and then it auto-populates my message. And it says something along the lines of, hey, this is Nick Harris. Thanks for taking a few minutes to speak with me. Just wanted to send over my contact information. That way you have it. If you're ever interested in getting an estimate of your home value, or even if you need a local vendor like a handyman, plumber, electrician, feel free to reach out. I'd be glad to be a resource for you. Reach out anytime and talk soon. So I send that out, sends my contact card, gives them something. And I have had people where I look back at my notes, it was a not interested. And they reach out to me 6 months later and said, hey, you called me and we're thinking about selling.
That's awesome. That's so encouraging because you hear a lot of times like all the numbers suck. No one picks up. No one wants to talk to me. And it shows you, yeah, that person, you probably like, yeah, they weren't interested. They didn't want to talk to me, but they still saved your info. And then you get a come list me call 6 months later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think anything you can do to get your contact in front of people, right? Like, you might as well. If you're going to be speaking with somebody and even if they're not interested and it's a no now, it's not a no forever. Go into it with the thought of, well, I'll get them my information. And when the time is right, they may reach out to me. And they wouldn't otherwise, right? Because if you're calling from Red X, like I do, it's calling off of a line that's not my cell phone. So it does route it. Like, if they call back, it routes it to me, but I want them to have my face, because I send a contact card with my face on it. They can put a face to the voice and the name. And I want them to see that in their phone so they save it.
When we were doing Red X, we were importing it into Follow Up Boss and then calling through the dialer there. but maybe going through RedX might be the better thing because of that spam thing.
Yeah, I haven't tried relaying it or exporting it into Follow Up Boss. I use Follow Up Boss as well, so I haven't tried that. But I haven't had any issues with that spam protection since I started doing it, and it's increased conversion a lot.
And so you send the text either from your personal number or your Follow Up Boss number and just say, hey, we just spoke. Here's my work number type of thing, even though the phone call came from a different number, correct?
Yep, exactly. Okay. Yep. Before I get off the phone with them, I'll say, hey, I'm going to send you a personal text message from my cell phone. That way you have my direct line. I'm calling you from my work line, but I want you to have my direct cell phone.
Okay.
So they know. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I'm going to make my whole team listen to every word of this podcast. It's been amazing. So you started in 2021, which was a busy year. And then I don't know how things are in Detroit, but it's been tougher years in 23 and 24. But it sounds like your volume was up this year. You've just done better and better. Is there anything that you would do over if you were starting over again?
I think for me, it would be, hey, we all get into real estate, and it always seems nice. It's like, okay, you have your own schedule. Theoretically, you're your own boss. But with that comes you succeed or you fail at your own efforts. And for me, I didn't have the blueprint of what I should be doing on a daily basis. I was kind of just, and again, I jumped into production pretty quickly. I have always worked hard, again, coming from the athletic background, but if I had a set calendar to say, here's at least at a minimum what you should be doing on a daily basis. And I wish I do now. I live and breathe by my calendar. Anything that I need to do is in there, including personal time, lead generation, lead follow-up, you name it. It's in my calendar. I wish I would have done that from the beginning, because I feel like in addition to that, actually utilizing a CRM, whatever it is, whether it's Follow Up Boss, whether it's Excel, whether it's a note on a pad on your desk, like actually utilize it, because we're so quick. And I know I was, if it was a no today and somebody said, hey, we're not looking to buy, that doesn't mean it's a no a month, 3 months, 6 months from now. And even the people who said, hey, we're not looking to buy until the spring, right? We're not looking to buy for like 6 months. If I didn't have a system at the time to know to follow up, they were just out of my world. It was gone. I didn't pay any attention to it. So number one would be know the things to do to set up your schedule and in your calendar, actually have it done. And then number two, have some type of CRM or follow-up system that works for you.
Yeah, I was the same. I didn't have a CRM at first, and I can't imagine how many deals I lost because, again, it's just, there's no way you can keep that in your head. It's absolutely impossible if you don't have a system, which is so interesting. And then, the calendar as well. You have to focus. So a lot of people hate prospecting. Yeah, they get into this business, but they absolutely hate it. They hate cold calling. You were an athlete. You were a trainer where people were calling you, begging you to come and train them. Was that a tough transition at first with the hangups? And it takes a while to get good at being on the phones, and you also to be in the right mental state.
Yeah, it was. And there's still days where it's tough, right? There's still days where I don't want to jump on a phone and be told no for 2 hours straight. The biggest thing for me is, again, the hurdle for me was actually getting in tune with my calendar, knowing what brings results, and again, I started because I heard people saying that it worked. So it had to work, right? If it worked for somebody, it's got to work for somebody else. So for me, it was, okay, it works. I know it works. How can I implement it into my old schedule? And how do I make sure that I actually do it? And then hitting those time blocks to where I do it. So for me, a big piece of it too is most people don't like it because they don't do it and they don't have experience with it. It takes some time and some effort to get better at the skill, because it is a skill. I mean, you could call for 20 hours in a week and be told nonstop and think that the problem is the other person on the line or the dialer. But really, are you getting the point across? Is your tone correct? Are you having good conversations providing value? So for me, it was the skill piece. And for anybody who's thinking about it, I would definitely get involved with like general tonality, conversation skills, but also some sales skills training, and just role play with other agents in the area, role play with your brother or your significant other, like just role play. Have some conversations, get a partner. And, I start calling at 9:00. Maybe for you, it looks like if you're going to start calling at 9:00, have a role play partner that at 8:30 until 9, you jump on a call and you're just going back with objections. Like, it gets the ball rolling so that when you jump onto the phone, it's not as big of a deal or it doesn't seem like as big of a task. And then with that, just do it. Because once you make the first call, you have the first conversation, even if you're told no, and you make it into like this game of like, okay, like I'm going to do this until I set an appointment today. It makes it a little bit more fun. And once you make the one, it's easier to keep going.
Whenever I make like the first one or two calls, I sound so awkward. I'm like talking, my tongue is like tied, and I just sound like a weirdo. But by the time you get to call three, you're like, all right, I got this. Like, and I was a college athlete, I played tennis. You were a college athlete with baseball. It's warming up. It's essentially warming up before the game. And no one is going to go out and serve a tennis ball or step on the baseball field without warming up first. And it's the same thing with calling. And it's better to do that with your peers where you sound like a weirdo or sound awkward versus calling that person that actually might want to sell their house and they hear you and you're just not ready. So I love that. And it's so important. And I'm guessing you started to see success from it. There's no motivator like success. So when you started seeing success, all those no's and the 2 hours that suck, you're like, oh, well, like I'm getting closer to my yeses.
Yeah. And one thing to, and that, I mean, it's exactly right. And wins for me started and still are contacts. So it's not appointment set. It's not how many listing appointments did I go on? How many buyers did I get in contact with? For me, I set the metric at something that I can actually control. So success for me, like I have a checklist on my daily calendar of things that I go through and I tally. So for me, I know my goal on a daily basis is at least 20 contacts a day. So it's fun for me. It's a win. If I have a conversation, even if it was a no, I tally there's one, right? I sent my contact information to them. That's a win. Where if your overall win is appointments, listing appointments, buyers appointments, it's easy to, and it was because I had this mindset at first, is like I could go through a whole week and not set a single appointment. And it was like, now I'm stressing, maybe on the phone, I'm coming off as more pressing. Maybe I'm not as confident because I wasn't. If I'm not setting appointments, I'm not confident. So have something where you can actually track success. And for me, it was contacts per day. And then it just starts to flow, right? Because you feel better about it and you know, okay, the more contacts I have, the more likely that next appointment is going to be. But if you're just tracking appointments, you never know how many contacts it takes you to get to that appointment.
I couldn't agree more. And I was talking to someone the other day, and getting from a cold dial to I need you to list my house in one conversation is honestly like winning the lottery. And it's an unrealistic expectation. So the whole goal is just to push the needle a little bit and grow a little closer, grow a little closer. So rather going from a 1 to a 10, it's going from a 1 to a 2, and then a 2 to a 3, like you said with the conversations.
Yeah.
Which I think is so important to think about, because everyone thinks they should make 10 calls and then they're going to have 4 listing appointments.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. It'd be great if it did.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be here. I would be on a beach somewhere if it worked.
Exactly. Is there anything else you'd like to add? You just have been giving us so many like great nuggets, and you've been so open and honest. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple other things that I would say, or one big thing for me, was finding a key mentor or coach, whether it's paid or just somebody who's invested, right? Somebody who's invested in your success. So for me, where I'm at now, Best Life and Company, we're out of Royal Oak. It was finding the general and the owner of that company who is mutually incentivized for me to do well. Get involved with somebody who cares about your success from a personal level, but also from a financial and business perspective. So be around somebody who's willing to coach you and get you to the position that you want to be, not only personally, but professionally. Whether that's a team or whether that's just the broker that you're going to, have someone to hold you accountable and to help you with coaching. That's a big piece. And that's been a dramatic change in my career. That's really, it took me from good to like really good. Right. And not only all of my prospecting, but also just the transaction itself, my communication, the white glove service that I offer. It really elevates what you can do there. And then number 2 is just the importance of being around like-minded individuals who are after a common goal. And for me, again, coming from the athletic background, competition helps me. So like being around other individuals, even though it might be, kind of hidden competition, it's there to say, okay, we're all after the same thing and we're all going to push each other to get there.
Absolutely. The cream rises to the top. Being around that, if you're around a bunch of people selling 10 homes a year and you're only selling 20, you're like, man, I'm amazing. But if you're around people that are doing big things, you're like, again, being competitive, you're like, I want to do better. I want to continue to grow and push myself. Well, this has been so awesome. How can people find you?
Yeah, I'm happy to chat with anyone who wants to pick my brain or kind of hear more about what my daily schedule looks like, or go over some script and role play, or just, again, pick my brain on what I do. Phone number, feel free to text me. My cell phone, 248-875-2299. Again, that's my cell phone. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Nick Harris _realtor. So NICKHARRIS _realtor. I use Instagram primarily. I'm on Facebook. You could probably find me there. I'm sure there's a lot of Nick Harris's though. Actually, I know there are. So Instagram, and feel free to text me anytime. Happy to jump on a call. I do coaching where I'm at now too. So we have a team of about 42, 45 agents, and I do some coaching, and happy to jump on the phone with anybody who just wants to hear more about what I do and what's working, and hopefully help them implement some different opportunities.
And if you need a fantastic agent in Detroit, you know to call Nick Harris. He's going to give your customers that white glove service he's talking about. Well, I appreciate it. This has been so much fun. Real Estate Rockstars, thank you for hanging out with us and Nick Harris. If you need to find me, you can find me on Instagram or Google me as well as follow Real Estate Rockstars on Instagram. This has been a great podcast, and we can't wait until next time.